Coming to the another very fascinating thing that you talk about is the fact that content is king, but context is queen. And you sort of mentioned that, how we work like a smartphone, where we are like, we have different apps, and we sort of, and when the different app is on, we work differently. And how are different selves of ours affected by the priming effect of context. And one very interesting you talked about is that it's very important that what comes before the ad, rather than the ad itself, is also is so these are the very sort of these are things that still I don't think the marketers or media planners or people who are sort of in the industry, they don't pay any attention to. So I mean, this is very sort of compelling stuff that you put out.
Very often people talk about these insights into human behavior as being irrational. It's like, this is proof of the irrational human being. And that never has sat that well with me. But Griscovicius says, don't think about these cognitive biases, and cognitive bias is a pejorative term anyhow, but don't think about these cognitive biases as design flaws, which is very much how I think the story of behavioral economics started, which is these are mistakes people make. He said, think about them as design features. They are things that have evolved over time. And really the way to think about them is they are features that sometimes when they sort of come up to context, getting us back to context in the modern world, they don't necessarily guide us to the optimal results. So his book is called The Rational Animal, because he would argue that they actually all come from a place of rationality. But it's just that sort of in different contexts and in a changing world, they may not always deliver us to the best solutions. I think his argument is really that over time they've worked pretty well for us. So the idea of context being queen is and I'm not making a gender statement here, quite the opposite. What I'm really saying is that sort of, I mean, many people have said context is king. I think the quote goes, I can't remember, it's Bill Gates is one person who's credited with it, and a number of other people have been credited with it. It's kind of funny, isn't it, with all these great quotes? It's like there's at least half a dozen people who apparently said them. When I'm talking about context being queen, I mean it in the sense of chess. And of course, in chess, you win or lose the game by how well you protect your king, but the most powerful weapon you have is your queen. Yeah. And so really I'm saying context is incredibly powerful because it drives our choices, and we operate in different ways when a context is different. And the experiment that Vlad Griscovicius did, which I still think, I absolutely agree with you, I think it's got such a big lesson for media placement that is seldom taken notice of, is that when he looked at two separate ads, one of which was about suggesting people do something because it was very popular because other people do it, a classic social proof thing, and another ad which suggested people do the same thing because it was an individual choice, they were breaking out, they were doing something different. Before showing people these two ads, this is a classic kind of 2x2 study, before showing people these two ads, what he did was he showed them, one half the group, he showed a clip of The Shining, which was a really scary part where Jack Nicholson is tearing the house up and, about to unleash mayhem. And to the other group, he showed a romantic film. I think it's called Until Dawn. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a classic kind of film where a couple get together. They get together on an overnight train in Europe. I think it's Sophie Delphi is the actor, and maybe Ethan Hawke. I can't remember. Yes, it is. But what happened was, by showing those people those different ads, it affected whether they were more drawn to the ad that said do the same thing, or whether they were drawn to the ad which said do something different. And the interesting thing here is that the scary ad actually made them more drawn to the ad that said do the same thing as other people. Whereas the ad which was more about a romantic moment, was perhaps safer as well, led them more to feeling that they were kind of like more likely to be moved by something which suggested they do something different. And so there's a number of ways you can explain this, but I think the important thing is that classic marketing and media placement would not take into account the effect of that. And if it did take it into account, it might get it completely wrong. So for example, we try to find contextual similarities, which is, oh, we're trying to get people to do something risky. Let's put it in a risky environment.
Right. Matching.
Yeah. So that I think is certainly an interesting.